name is Matt Gonsalvez, and I'm a loan originator with Foremost Financial. So it's my job to reach out to builders and developers, discuss their projects, structure a loan, and kind of oversee it from the start of the transaction to the end of the transaction. So I've been with the company for 12 years now, and seen hundreds of projects, dozens and dozens of clients, and we kind of see the nitty-gritty behind all of these projects. Next slide. So we'll get right into it. So we have a kind of brief overview of some of the projects that we've been financing. This is a project on Browns Line and Lakeshore, and this was done before the Major Streets Initiative. So our client bought two 25-foot lots, and they took it through a zoning bylaw amendment and site plan approval for 4 townhomes, 2 walk-up apartments, and commercial space. So if this was done today under the new Major Streets law, this would be a much bigger structure, or it'd probably be 10 units versus 6. Much bigger, much cheaper, much faster. The Major Streets bylaw probably would have taken 2 to 3 years off of the approval process for this tower, for this townhome development. So we financed the purchase. We financed the purchase of the property, and then we financed the construction, and it's getting taken out with CMHC insured financing. Next slide. And this, I know this is kind of a Toronto-focused event, but across the province, there's opportunities all over the place. This project is in Guelph, Ontario. Our client purchased the property, and thanks to Bill 23, they didn't need site plan approval because this is a 10-unit apartment building. So we're financing the construction, and now they're applying for the CMHC insured takeout financing loan. So the construction will be taken out. They're going to take out a good amount of equity from the property to move to other developments, and then move forward from there. Next slide. And so this project is in the Junction, and it's a triplex and a garden suite. So some of my clients are experimenting on the purpose-built rental route. Some are doing the multiplex condominium route, and this is a multiplex condominium. So it's nearing construction. It will be listed for sale within the next few weeks. So it's a triplex. So it'll be three kind of, it will resemble townhomes on the inside, and a detached garden suite. So we're financing construction. They're working with Ben Singer, who's speaking later on the condominium registration, and they're gonna sell it shortly. It's registered with Terrion. Great marketable property. Next slide. And so this is an example. So this is actually in Kitchener, Ontario, and this project would not get built today based on the current regulations. So our client. This was before Bill 23, before the multiplex zoning in Kitchener. So our client bought a lot with multifamily zoning. They severed into 2. These are 2 duplexes and 2 garden suites. And the reason why this wouldn't be built today is, so when they were finished construction, they got a CMHC insured term loan, and they took about $800,000 of equity out of the property once it was complete, because they were able to qualify for a CMHC insured term loan. But because now it's detached, CMHC recently updated their guidelines to not allow detached properties to qualify for their insured term loan. So because it's 2 duplexes and 2 garden homes, it would not qualify. Also, in terms of HST, this property wouldn't qualify for the HST exemption, because so for the HST exemption, 4 units or more, you don't have to self-assess, and you could effectively get a rebate for the full HST that you pay for the property, and not have to pay HST once it's complete or once you sell it. But with this property, you would have to pay HST. So it is a major problem. So it's kind of a lesson on what was built in the past wouldn't necessarily work in the future. So I would avoid detached triplexes if you can. If you can do semi-detached triplexes, it would qualify for CMHC, or semi-detached fourplexes, and it would get the HST exemption. So it's kind of important to kind of understand the new guidelines. Next slide. And we're actually seeing this across the city. So many people are buying storefronts with maybe an apartment or maybe just a 1-story storefront, and they're doing extensive renovations. This project's in the Junction, so there's a commercial unit in the front, a live-work unit on the rear, and then there's 4 apartments above. And so we financed the construction, and our client went to a CMHC originator, and they got takeout financing. They took about $700,000 of equity out of the property to use towards their other projects. So this is another example. It's a mixed-use example, and it's becoming increasingly popular. And it's the pro formas are looking great on these storefronts. It's kind of the new kind of emerging sector. We're not seeing just multiplexes. We're also seeing these mixed-use projects as well. Next slide. So why is this space so difficult? Why is it so difficult to understand performance and run through them? So there's HST there's differences in HST which you really have to understand, because it could mean the difference of a few $100,000 of a project. So CMHC keeps on changing the requirements, so it's important to understand the latest in terms of CMHC requirements. There's kind of development charge difficulties in terms of sequencing development charges you have to see on top of that. And then appraisers, it's important to find the right appraiser who understands your project and will actually go through the right work. And then hard cost budgets, we talked to 10 different builders. We kind of come up with 10 different budgets for the hard costs. So it's really important to understand the fireproofing and all the costs involved with that. And next slide. So everyone asks us, how do we make a decision on who we want to back and who we want to finance? 3 key criteria. Number one, we want a project with a strong margin of safety. So if there's a cost overrun or a delay, it will still, at the end of the day, qualify for takeout financing or be saleable. Number 2, an experienced team. Have you hired the right people? Do you have the right experience necessary to complete the project on time, on budget? And it's the nature of construction. Issues always happen, so it's important to have the team with experience to navigate those issues. And number 3 is financial strength. So cost overruns are common, and money kind of solves almost all problems. So as long as you have the resources to overcome some cost overruns or delays, we're happy to kind of support you and work with you on a project, because we kind of roll the dice 100 times a year, doing 100 different projects or more. We don't really want a 1 or 2% chance of failure. We kind of work to kind of manage risk and kind of make sure everyone's successful. Next slide. When you're evaluating construction lenders, it's important to kind of ask information up front, because by the time you have a signed commitment and a deposit with them, you're kind of stuck at that point. You can't really, it's harder to switch lenders after you've gone too far down the road. So when you're approaching a lender up front to really understand who you're working with and what the project is or what the process is, there's some key questions to ask. It's kind of, people don't necessarily ask them up front. So certain lenders don't really differentiate between a low-rise multiplex and a 50-story apartment building. So it's really important to understand who you're working with and what the requirements are. It's not just about interest rate and fees. So some require, so ask them if there's an environmental site assessments needed, especially if it's a residential property surrounded by other residential, geotechnical report, how much equity is required at each stage, understand all of the costs, all of the fees, and understand who's going to be monitoring construction, if it's a cost consultant or an appraiser or in-house cost consultant, kind of understand who's monitoring the construction and understand where the draws will be at. So at what stage of construction, how much money you could expect at each stage. So it's important to kind of ask information upfront, not towards a day or two before funding. Next slide. So I've come up with, I've kind of searched the recent sales in Toronto, and I found a very interesting project. So I didn't really want to give financial details on any of my clients. I want to keep that confidential. So I'm not connected with this project yet. So if anybody knows whoever purchased 162 Times Road, I'd love to finance it. And here's how I would finance it. So this is north of Eglinton, west of the Allen Expressway. It's a 14-minute walk to the Glencairn subway station, and I love this lot because it's a corner lot. So it has exposure along Rydell Avenue, fronts onto Times. So because you have a multiplex, you have more units kind of facing the street, kind of more sunlight, more access. So this is a terrific site for a multiplex project, which is why I want to feature it and say, okay, if I were to finance this project, here's what I expect. If I were to do a pro forma for this project, here's a pro forma I would do. Next slide. So this person purchased the property for $800,000. I'm assuming you could get approval for 6,000 leasable square feet. So when you're searching for a project, the new metric to look at is land price per leasable square foot. So before it's price per front foot with custom homes, but that metric doesn't make sense. So when you buy high-rise land, you buy high-rise land on a price per buildable square foot. So it's important to take the metric from evaluating high-rise properties to use this for multiplexes, because at the end of the day, you're going to make money based on how much leasable square foot you have or buildable square foot you have if it's a condo. So focus on price per leasable square foot. I assume they could build 6,000 square feet between a fourplex and a garden home facing the street. So I assume they could build 6,000 square feet on this. It's $133 per leasable square foot, which is a fantastic deal. This guy did a great job, or this person did a great job purchasing the property, especially if they get approval for 6,000 square feet. I assume 5 3-bedroom units, I think approximately 1,200 square feet each. And then the lease rate, I assume $2.91 per leasable square foot, and that's right around the average for multiplexes. I think you probably do a little bit better, but I want to be on the conservative side for this, the purpose of this pro forma. Rents are kind of under a bit of pressure. I think it's more of a long-term investment, in my opinion. Next slide. Okay, so we have $800,000 as the land costs. I have $300,000 for hard costs and contingency, and I assume it'll cost $2 million to build. It might be a bit higher than that on the hard cost front, but I'm assuming it's a bit of a lean site, and the finishes are a bit modest because it's a purpose-built rental. So right now, my company, I assume that we would finance 74% of the overall project costs. So the owner of the property would have to contribute 26% of the overall cost, and we would do the balance at 74. They would put their equity in up front, then we would fund the balance. I assume that it would appraise for $3,550,000 for a decent return. So our loan to value, because there's a good projected profit, 3.1 to $3,550,000. So there's a $450,000 profit in there. So we're able to kind of extend a loan at a 65% loan to value. Terrific project. I would do this all day long. Next slide. So in terms of valuing the property, we assume it would rent for $2.91 per square foot, $3,500 for a 3-bedroom apartment. The TREB average was about $4,000, but this is not really in a kind of big condo, so a bit of a discount from that. I think it's a bit conservative, and I think about expenses and deductions about 24%. An appraiser might kind of give you a figure slightly below that, but we're trying to be a bit on the conservative side. I think CMHC would probably be around the 25%, but I'm sure Max Corey's been at Peak Hill. Later on in the discussion, we'll kind of provide some more light on that. And then, so I assuming an appraiser would say it's it would be worth $3,550,000 once complete at a 4.5% cap rate. So what an appraiser would say, what it would actually sell for might be two different things. An appraiser would say 4.5%. I think maybe closer to 5%, but in my opinion, as a purpose of rental, it's not really built to build and flip. It's kind of, I think in my opinion, the asset, you should build these things and operate them for the long run in the hopes of future rental rate increases and kind of future cap rate reductions. I think it's something more of a long-term hold, maybe 5 to 10 years, to allow the rental market to kind of keep up, to improve and kind of have a larger profit that way. But still, because we financed about 74% of the overall cost, the owner only contributed about 26% of the cost. So based on leverage, they had a 57% return on equity, which was massive. So if you're able to compound your capital at 57% per year, you'd be a billionaire in no time. So it's not for the faint of heart. There's still some risk involved, but from a profit perspective, return on equity, this is a terrific project. Next slide. So, so now this comes to in terms of takeout financing. So Max at Peak Hill will kind of go more in depth on this, but I want to make sure that we're safe from our side. So I wouldn't extend a loan if I wasn't confident in the takeout financing. So we're assuming the net operating income is just under $160,000. We would need a $2.3 million loan to take out our construction loan. So the debt services. So we would need a 1.1. So the income on the property would have to cover the mortgage payments at least 1.1 times. And in this case, we're just under 1.4 times. So we're confident in taking out financing. I believe you probably get a takeout loan for $2.9 million based on the math. And so you'd be able to take out equity before fees of just under 600,000 to kind of move on to your next projects. So you're taking out almost all of your equity to move on to the next project to invest. So in my opinion, this was a terrific project to invest in. It's kind of a typical what we're seeing in that area of Toronto and what we're seeing for multiplexes. Next slide. Is that it? Okay. So thank you all. I'll be around in the back if anybody has any questions. I think there's a question and answer session afterwards. So thank you all, and ready for the next speaker. Thank you.